Welcome to The Explainer. So, we throw the word stress around every single day, right? We're stressed about traffic, stressed about work, stressed about family, the whole shebang. But what is actually happening under the hood when we feel that way? Today, we're setting up a really crucial premise. Stress isn't just a passing bad mood. No way. It is a total body takeover.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever felt your mind go completely blank during an important test? Our source material shares this incredibly relatable story about a student named Raj. Raj is studying for his final exams, pulling a massive late-nighter, tossing and turning, and waking up with this heavy head. When he finally gets to the exam and opens the paper, his heart starts pounding, his hands get clammy, and his mind just blanks, literally goes blank. He knew the material, but his system completely shut down. Why?
To figure out exactly what happened to Raj, here's our diagnostic roadmap for today. We'll start with a total body takeover, move into mind and emotions, then look at the physical reaction, and finally, trace the road to burnout.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the total body takeover, more than just in your head.
So often, we treat stress like this pesky little thought we can just, think positively away. But the research tells a vastly different story. When you encounter a stressor, your body's appraisal process doesn't just hit one area. It branches into 4 distinct responses: physiological, behavioral, emotional, and cognitive. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down every single one of these pillars.
Moving right along to Section 2, Mind and Emotions, the psychological toll.
First up, the emotional effects. When you're suffering from stress, you are far more likely to experience intense mood swings and erratic behavior. This can manifest as serious anxiety, physical tension, and even depression. And what's really devastating here is that it creates a vicious circle. The stress causes erratic behavior, which alienates your friends and family, literally the very support system you need. This in turn decreases your confidence and creates even more emotional turmoil. It's a highly personal and immediate symptom for so many of us.
Which brings us right back to Raj's story. The text points out this fascinating concept. Examination stress is characterized as evaluative apprehension. This isn't just a case of the jitters, it's a clinical reality. This evaluative apprehension actively interferes with preparation, concentration, and performance. You aren't failing because you don't know the material. You're failing because the stress has produced debilitating effects on your brain's ability to actually retrieve that material.
Which leads us perfectly into the cognitive effects. If the emotional pressures of stress keep up, you'll begin to suffer from sheer mental overload. When your brain is overloaded, it's like a computer running way too many tabs. Your short-term memory capacity shrinks, your concentration just plummets, and your ability to make sound decisions completely vanishes. Continued pressure literally makes our brains misfire right when we need them the most.
Let's actually trace how this cascading cycle of cognitive stress ruins our daily lives. Step 1, you hit that mental overload. You literally can't process information properly anymore. This immediately triggers Step 2. You make a faulty decision because your cognitive capacity is totally compromised. And that rapidly accelerates into Step 3, real-world consequences. That single faulty decision leads to arguments at home, massive financial loss, or, even losing your job. The cognitive misfire spirals right into a real-life crisis.
On to Section 3, the physical reaction, hormones and habits.
We've seen how stress scrambles our minds, but the biological function is just as wild. When you're under pressure, your body cranks up hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart rate spikes, blood vessels constrict. But here's the secret. This hormonal dump is actually your body's attempt to help you survive. It's preparing you to fight or flight.
But, and this is a big but, this physiological response is a total double-edged sword. In the short term, stress is actually kind of helpful. It expands your lung passages and gives you the energy to function under pressure. But over the long term, it becomes extremely damaging. That constant flood of adrenaline and cortisol turns into destructive wear and tear, putting immense strain on your heart, your metabolism, the whole system.
And when our bodies and minds are pushed to that biological limit, it spills out into our actions. These are the behavioral effects. They're the outward, observable signs we can easily spot in ourselves, our coworkers, and our friends when the physical and cognitive loads just get way too heavy to carry.
Let's rapidly run through these symptoms because they're incredibly common. When stressed, we eat less nutritional food, we dramatically increase our caffeine intake, our sleep patterns get completely disrupted, and we see excessive consumption of cigarettes and alcohol. The text even highlights the misuse of addictive tranquilizers. And, while a tranquilizer might seem like a quick fix to just calm down, the side effects include loss of concentration, dizziness, and reduced work performance.
Our desperate coping mechanisms just end up adding fuel to the fire.
Which brings us to Section 4, the road to burnout, the systemic collapse.
So what happens when emotional instability, cognitive overload, physiological damage, and bad habits all collide? You hit burnout. This is the climax state of this whole process. It's a state of total physical, emotional, and psychological exhaustion, caused when environmental demands are just way too high. At this stage, the system is fundamentally collapsing.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is that you must be vigilant in looking for these exact signs in your own life. Physical exhaustion shows up as chronic fatigue, weakness, and low energy. The mental exhaustion appears as severe irritability, anxiety, and these deep, dark feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. If you are checking these boxes, you are redlining on the road to burnout.
And if you ignore those warning signs, well, the consequences move from psychological to strictly medical. Prolonged stress actively impairs your immune system. It transforms psychological pressure into very real, very dangerous physical disorders. We're talking about cardiovascular disorders, high blood pressure, stomach ulcers, asthma, allergies, and chronic headaches. Your body is physically breaking down under the weight of all that invisible pressure.
I want to deliver a statistic from the source material that is an absolute gut punch. Researchers estimate that 50 to 70% of all physical illnesses have stress playing an important role. Just think about that for a second. More than half of the physical ailments you or your loved ones experience are deeply tied to this unseen psychological force. That is wild.
And I'll follow that up immediately with another staggering statistic. 60% of all medical visits are primarily for stress-related symptoms. Our doctors' offices are literally filled with people whose root condition isn't a virus or a bacteria, it's the unmanaged stress of their daily lives tearing their immune systems apart. Which leaves us with a final provocative question that I really want you to carry with you today. Are you listening to your body's early warning signs before stress turns into systemic burnout? We've seen how a single stressful event branches into emotional chaos, cognitive overload, and poor behavioral choices. The roadmap to burnout is entirely predictable, so evaluate your coping mechanisms and ask yourself if you're treating the root cause or just ignoring the alarms. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to take control of your total body health.